Samantha Markle win her case against Meghan? Hello everyone, welcome to Royal News Network. My name is Brittany, and today we're talking about the latest updates in Markle versus Markle. So this is Samantha Markle's defamation suit against her sister, Meghan. She's seeking $75,000 in damages over statements Meghan has made or allegedly has made in Finding Freedom in her interview with Oprah Winfrey, specifically regarding her sister Samantha. Samantha's claims that these statements have caused her enormous harm and damage. It's made it difficult for her, and so she's seeking restitution against her sister. While it's unclear where the case will go, the judge did say that a discovery process could be done. That means that Harry and Meghan could be essentially put under oath and required to answer specific questions regarding the racist allegations and other things beyond just the scope of the Samantha Markle case. But at the same time, will it be successful? I think there's some indications that this case may wither out. So we'll go over that a bit today. But if you guys haven't been here to Royal News Network before, like I said, my name is Brittany, and on this channel I provide compelling royal commentary about the latest news and a little bit of gossip as well. We'll also be reviewing television shows and movies and sharing a bit about history too. So if you guys want to subscribe, that would be fantastic. I would love to have you back. In addition, I also have a couple links down below to a trip I have to the UK and London and the Cotswolds, links to my fashion channel, which is on a bit of a hiatus, but we'll be coming back. It's all about royals. In addition, we also have a newsletter, weekly newsletter, Royal Wire. So if you're interested in that, again, everything is down below. But getting to Markle versus Markle, will this case succeed? I think there's some cause for concern. So there are two major sources right now. Unfortunately, I was not able to watch the live stream of the court case, but Ellie Hall, who is with BuzzFeed, was able to listen in through it. And we also have a report from the Daily Mail as well, because they have been the target of Meghan Markle's lawsuits. And I think they enjoy any time Meghan has to, again, utilize her lawyers in multiple ways, because her and Harry must pay their lawyers at the wazoo because they're constantly going through litigation. And this is just another instance, and this case is a bit unique. And I think there were some challenges put here to Samantha Markle's team that I don't think actually made them look all that great. One of the biggest things is that at least some of their emphasis is on Finding Freedom. So this is the book that Meghan's cheerleader in the media, Omid Scobie, wrote. And we obviously know for sure, this was confirmed through her other court case with the Daily Mail, that her team fact-checked this book. Her team at the palace fact-checked this book. Jason Knapp met with the authors and gave them information that was supplied to him by Meghan. So we know there was definitely some information passing between these. However, when it comes to legal and defamation, this particularly means that somebody has to actually publish this document. So in this case, Meghan would have had to publish the book herself. And so the judge pressed and challenged Samantha Markle's team on this a couple of times. So she said, so this is Judge Honeywell, "I'm really struggling with trying to find under Florida law that defendant Markle published the alleged defamatory statements." So again, because Meghan did not directly publish these, this aspect of the case is actually, I think, pretty weak. And so the judge pressed them on this a bit. And at some point, I believe she was like, okay, we need to move on from this because we've already established that Meghan didn't publish this book herself. So we need to move on from this, and so we can go to the other aspect of the complaint, and that is the Oprah Winfrey interview. And now here I think they may have a bit of a stronger standing. However, the lawyer in this case made a mistake of not including the Oprah Winfrey transcript in his court documents. So they weren't able to reference it. It was something the judge called out. So again, and what he put within his initial complaint or an amended complaint included paraphrasing and not exact quotes. And so that's a huge thing. Again, once again, questioning what Meghan is saying. But there was something very particular that her lawyer said that I thought was super critical and I think very, very clear, that you could always interpret what Meghan is saying as something that does not apply broadly to what you could call the truth. So Meghan's lawyer argued that her comments were, quote, a statement and expression of her own personal and subjective feelings. He said she never declared, "I am an only child with no siblings." All she did was describe her own experiences growing up. Such statements are not readily capable of being proved true or false. What's really interesting here is that personal and subjective feelings. That aspect of it. It's personal and it's subjective. What we can do now, I think we have carte blanche to apply that to everything Meghan Markle says. It's her subjective feeling about X, Y, and Z. It's not verifiable truth. It is subjective, what she believes to be true. And that's entirely different from the actual truth. So I think that's something really, really critical to consider. And I thought it was super interesting that he brought that up because, again, even though perhaps in a legal sense this case may not have a great standing, and unfortunately Samantha Markle's own lawyer said this is not the strongest case in the world, which is you never want to say. Why would you want to say that to the judge? Especially that way, that's going to be quoted, that's going to go everywhere. Massive, massive error on his part. But when it comes to this idea that things she says are subjective, that they're her expression of her feelings and not facts, I think it's something that the monarchy and anybody else commentating on Harry and Meghan should really laser focus in on, is that everything she says is subjective. It's not fact. It's not verifiable truth. It's not something that we can come to an accord on. It's her belief in a certain thing. It's all about her, not necessarily what the actual truth. And that he actually admitted that, I thought was kind of fascinating. And part of Samantha Markle's reasoning for this case, which I think is good to mention as well, is that she's really pushing against this narrative by Meghan, that Meghan was this rags to riches tales, that she was this poor, impoverished young girl who somehow clawed her way up to Hollywood and then to royalty. But that's not necessarily true. I mean, Meghan Markle said that Old Spaghetti Factory was a cheap restaurant. It ain't cheap. It was never cheap when I was a kid. Going to the Old Spaghetti Factory was a treat. It was something we didn't do too often. I'm not a huge fan of it. It's actually been years since I've been to an Old Spaghetti Factory. But this basic idea that she was basically equating it with Sizzlers in a statement that she made to Congress or to certain, I think, senators or something to that effect. It was like, we had to survive on $5 buffets at Sizzlers and then Old Spaghetti Factory. I'm like, why are you ragging on Old Spaghetti Factory? That's a good restaurant. It's a decent restaurant. I would say it's sort of on par with Olive Garden to a certain extent, just slightly different. And so it's just this idea that I think in her mind, she is this rags to riches tale, but she always went to private schools. Her elementary school was private. Her high school and middle school were private. And so this idea that she went from this rags, low income girl and everything into this amazing wealth is ludicrous. And so Samantha says she's denying them to cover up that she made up this narrative that she went from rags to riches, which is nonsense. Probably not even realizing the harm she would do to her sister. Probably never realizing this would put an innocent person into the fray of where all of a sudden she has hundreds of threats on her life coming at her, a stalker she had to deal with, and then more things as well. And I love his comment as well. She got caught lying. She was lying about her education, that she was getting all these scholarships. Her father paid for her education, for goodness sake. She got caught with this lie. Why else is she putting her sister down? Why else is she putting her father down? Why else is she denying her family, who has done nothing but good to her all her life? She never had a problem with them at all. I will say, I'm not totally 100% on the Markle camp. What I mean by that is that I think between all the different Markles, I would say there's probably an element of something running through them that's not all that trustworthy. And I apply that to all of them. However, what I do think is true is that Meghan made up this narrative about her life. And she spun it to Harry, she spun it to news outlets, and it didn't matter because at the time, nobody questioned it. Nobody cared that the C-list nobody cared that the C-list actress from Suits, what her background story was. She could essentially make up her life in a lot of ways. And when it came to meeting Harry, I think she really did spin this story for him. She gave him a narrative because it's still unclear whether or not her father ever had a plane ticket prepared for him to go to the UK before his daughter's wedding. Because they even admitted in, oh gosh, what was it now? Oh, the reality TV show, I believe, that they had booked a flight for him a couple days before the wedding, like a last minute flight. And I was like, was that not on the books for months ahead of time? Was that not something you guys had prepared for at all? There's no indications. Thomas Markle has never said whether or not he was ever fitted for any type of tuxedo. I think there's a bunch of huge questions about whether or not Meghan deliberately kept aspects of her family away from Harry because they would challenge the narrative that she gave him. And she knew her mom would go along with it. And I know some people love Doria and think she's great. I'm sorry, I think she's on a somewhat equal playing field with Meghan in a lot of ways, because I think they all know, and we've all gotten these indications that what Meghan has said about her childhood is not entirely true. And we know especially the dumb soap commercial that she goes on and on about how she changed. She even said this in her documentary. I personally changed a multi-million-dollar ad campaign. It's like, Meghan, if you actually believe that, I would have to also believe that you believe in Santa Claus, because that's so ludicrous and insane that a little girl from Los Angeles could change something like that. No, they're not going to change that unless they got a huge blowback from it. So something like that, which is so obviously you could poke holes in. I know a lot of people have said it was part of her classroom assignment, which does make sense because she said that the boys in her class were making fun of her for this, inspired by this commercial. It's like, well, why in the world were the kids watching this commercial in the class? How even would children all of a sudden go, yeah, you deserve to be in the kitchen, girl? I'm like, that wasn't my experience in elementary school. But unless the teacher was giving them that perspective from the front of the classroom and they were all watching that commercial with that specific intention in mind, then you can say, oh yeah, maybe Meghan was inspired by that and maybe they went on. But again, it was this one class. Again, with one class in California, out of the 300 plus million people who live in the United States, let's say at the most, because it was a private school, 12 to 16 kids were in that classroom. Do you really think P&G, so Procter & Gamble, the company that made the soap commercial, would change it based on the opinion of, at the most, let's say 16, 18 children? No, of course not. It's dumb. It's dumb even to consider that, really, on the face of it. That's not how marketing works. Now, if they got a huge blowback, yes, Meghan is part of a larger conversation that happened behind the scenes at Procter & Gamble where they went ahead and they changed their ad. But it wasn't Meghan. But she still claims it. So she claims that, which again, just from a logic standpoint, makes no sense whatsoever. What else is she willing to lie about? What else is she not telling the truth about? That's a huge question that Meghan Markle really is unable to answer. And I think she thrives on changing up the narrative. We've seen this time and time again. I feel like things are always changing with Harry and Meghan. It's because Meghan is constantly adjusting and changing based on what she thinks the public wants or needs in that particular situation and what will gain her the most attention. And she will continue to do this for the rest of her life, I have no doubt. Meghan Markle will never go away, guys. She will never, ever go away. But this case, unfortunately, I think, I'm going to guess it's probably going to be thrown out. And if not, at the very least, the section about finding freedom will be thrown out. And I don't think Samantha's lawyer did her any favors by going, well, this isn't the strongest case in the world, but you know, if we can do more discovery, it'll make it stronger. And while I understand that to a certain extent, I also think you don't want to say the quiet part out loud. You want to frame something like that in a way where it makes you sound confident, and yet we have so much already here. The next step is to speak with Harry and Meghan and get more things on the book so we can continue to build this already strong case that we have. Even if you know this case isn't strong, you never want to say that quiet part out loud. That would just be my suggestion to her legal team. So anyways, guys, let me know what you think about this latest update. Thank you so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye.